Okay, just I'm going to run through my presentation, which would be quite short, but I try to make it quite concisely and still quite clear. So I will start just by explaining what ethics infrastructure is, what kind of needs it encompasses, and is it important in academia at all. So, in general, there are two approaches how ethics infrastructure can be understood. One of them is called compliance approach. I'm not going to read what is written in the slide because you can do that so. But very shortly to explain, it's actually obeying rules and authority. So that is the priority we're given in this approach when you're applying that. The second one approach is values-led approach. There is a difference. And the main difference is here that we cannot create rules for everything. So naturally we should find something else that could serve for basis for our decisions and considerations. And naturally here we need some institutional, not only individual values established or embedded to the university. So even these two approaches have a bit of difference. The first one, compliance approach, refers to rather rules and authority. The second one rather to values. But all those together, they're alias. So this is, I do not want to say that we should decide which one is better. Okay? So just a very small example how to understand it better. What, for example, ethics infrastructure your institution has. Okay, this was a case that I took from one of the research paper, and you'll find the references at the end. So, what is an example? So, 12 years ago, more than 70 applicants that submitted their application to MBA business programs went to the web browser and typed in a stolen passcode in an attempt to determine whether they had been accepted to the program of their choice prior to official notification from the school. So it's kind of try to get enrolled. So what has happened in different universities, and this is based from US. So Harvard University, it rejected all of the applicants, and they had violated the university ethical norms. That was the explanation of the decision. Stanford University requested explanations from transgressors regarding the motivating factors why they did it so. And that much, they accepted all the candidates. They didn't see any problem with this. So my question to the audience, how do you think which of the approach I just mentioned, which means value-based or compliance-based, was inherent to each of these universities? For example, Harvard University. What do you think?
Correct. Because ethical value is over the rule. It's more objective as a rule. You can rule when you are in a position change. The rule is flexible, and ethical value is not. It's over the subject's authority. So I had to obey the value, and when a rule is not good, I'm not obliged to obey it.
Not necessarily the interpretation is as you just provided. Actually, with the values or ethical norms, let's say, they are above rules, but it doesn't mean that you should not obey the rules.
But
not in all cases you have a rule for each case.
Yes.
So then you have to make a decision. Okay? Angelika, you wanted to question?
First, I would like to point out that the three business schools have very different orientations and value systems. And in retrospective, one can understand why Harvard took that decision and Dartmouth got a decision quite contrary to the first one. I have a question. I have to ask a question. The codes that were stolen from someone, presumably.
You mean the code they type in?
Yes. So
I'm not sure because that was not clearly described, whether this solo they created. I just was previously was given a situation with students' innovations.
To be honest, in my view, I would go, I mean, if I am an MBA director, if this incident happened to my program, I would follow the Stanford approach, because I think it is always more safe to examine the conditions and understand the problem at hand deeper than what initially appears. It is often the case in businesses that there are some hidden information here and there that could lead elsewhere.
Yeah, I understand, but if you change slightly the situation that was presented, if this is the applicants to IT programs,
Sorry?
if it would be applicants to IT program, not business program,
No, I'm saying that is
will
my,
it change your attitude toward these students?
I see the
these
point
applicants?
that obviously those who have managed to do it have higher competencies than others.
Okay, so what I wanted just to show you, is probably, let's assume that Harvard ethics infrastructure actually was kind of values-based approach. And Stanford, it might be so values-based approach, but for Dartmouth, I would say there is none of them. Just there was no, not fully understanding, but some consistency what should be done in the case as such. Okay, means of ethics infrastructure, they are very diverse. Okay, and this is not the exhaustive list. You can find even more of them. If you would ask me whether we need all of them in one university, no. So each university can decide which of these means this university can combine. So some of them are less costly, some of them are very expensive, so it's up to each university. Diverse procedures, that was mentioning from Irene's presentation about strategies, about policies. So this all is in, but code ethics plays a bit different role, and it is presented usually as a separate theme. So as diverse procedures, I would provide example, for example, ethical approval, some enrollment rules, and so on. So it's a bit structuring by each area that happens in the university. Okay, here is another example from Lithuania, my country. What kind of, let's say, national ethics infrastructure we have for research misconduct. Here I just presented very shortly because it was really quite hard for me to make it in one slide. But this is only institutions that monitor, analyze, and even penalize in case of research misconduct. Here we have two governmental institutions, this Ministry of Health and Research Council of Lithuania. There are two institutions that are acting under Parliament. This is Ombudsman for Academic Ethics and Procedures and Equal Opportunities Ombudsman. So in each country, if you start mapping from this, you probably will find something in your country as well. And they have some recommendations, some rules, some guidelines, some laws, so definitely this is a part of all ethics infrastructure. Another example, probably you would know, and Thomas was mentioning in his presentation about the Bologna process, how it can affect some changes in our universities. So I'll take an example from European Standard Guidelines that probably you know about. They are most updated today. And just look at this, what is advised to us to do. So their standard. Institutions should have a policy for quality assurance. And there is a guideline, one of this, so academic integrity and freedom, and is vigilant against academic fraud. So we see here, I just mentioned, that universities should start establishing ethics infrastructure, just, let's say, in a more narrow area, mentioning only academic fraud, but that depends also how we understand what the fraud is. Another what I want to say is bringing some scientific evidence why it is important to pay more attention to this. So there was some research findings published in the paper 2 years ago, and there were some few conclusions that others come to. So the first one is saying that having a national research and standard policy positively associated with research and development funding, ranking, and intensiveness, which is clearly shows that having ethics infrastructure and working on specific areas, it gives an image for institution. And not only this, the lack of agreement on the definition of misconduct hampers promoting and protecting international research. This is also the situation when we meet some colleagues from other countries and we see that understanding the things is not so easy. I have my personal experience with in collaboration with neighborhood, so colleagues from Ukraine. And it's really hard to make collaboration with them because you never know whether they are not plagiarizing even the manuscript they are going to work with you. So this is really different because for us in my country, in some others, and I find this in Slovakia as well, the word compilation has a negative connotation. It means just take one piece from one published paper, another piece from another paper, it means from your own papers, and you make one more new paper. So this is not the way it should work. But for Ukrainians and some Lithuanians, it works perfectly because they don't understand how it might be different and what consistency can bring. So this is just evidence from some research and my personal experience. The next standard, institutions should assure themselves of the competence of the teaching, and here I would say some missing point from the standards and guidelines. Here we then speak no more about the training or other mean of ethics infrastructure that could be envisaged as compulsory component. Is, for example, on integrity in teaching materials, cultural differences, having academic work, and so on. Because usually in everyday life, professors, they face with these issues and they don't know how to make it better. So, generally what's said, I made a citation, the problem is, I don't remember who said that. That sometimes also happens. So, that was said about the academia that mostly teach that teachers should teach by habit, example, and exhortation. And actually, there is no evidence in these guidelines as a continuity of the need to establish ethics infrastructure consistently through all university functioning. The last example, I guess so, is another standard that says institutions should monitor and periodically review their programs. That's clear. Yeah, we do that so. But there is no component that considers evaluation of ethical behavior of teachers, students, and administration. So again, there is just something that doesn't go further. Overall, the emphasis I want to bring with this example from the European standards and guidelines that malpractices always have some victims, and not necessarily this one that we used to speak most about the students. So there's also other academia members. And making a conclusion, this is a slide that you shouldn't take seriously. So there was usually, when you speak with people from academia, it doesn't matter, teacher, administration, or students, oh, we can fix it. Oh no, I would say this is fantasy based because we really need some knowledge, need some training, and it should not be just maybe one day or 1 year, it should be annually and constantly. Another one option that was found is idealistic, that inhabitants from the Mars planet will come and fix this instead of us. So it doesn't happen, nothing without us. So references, if you need us to look for some more information regarding this, and thank you.